February 29th, 2016. Syria state-of-the-art technology gives Syrian army the edge. The government has lost over 60,000 men since the war began, but new Russian equipment is helping turn the tide. King of Chaos. 3 states that were considered enemy states by Israel have been made into failed states and may be in the process of dismemberment. Testing out repression in Israel. An experiment in social repression. Skies pilot agreement. Skies Pikosh agreement. Redrawing the map of the Mideast. France is in the throes of a secret war in Libya, but to report on this is criminal offense. This is how we spooked Putin. The New York Times won't tell you about the American adventure in Ukraine. Orwell, bienvenue to France, encore. France is in the throes of a secret war in Libya. That criminal offense, that's a weird double post. American know-how. Cluster bombs acquired from the United States have been used by Saudi Arabia in its war with Yemen. Former CIA director military may refuse to follow Trump's orders if he becomes president. We should support Apple's refusal to bow to the FBI's dangerous demands. The graveyard of the elites. That a revolt is coming is incontrovertible. The absurdity of the election proves it. Chomsky, Donald Trump is winning because White House is dying. Signs are familiar, and here it does evoke some memories of the rise of European fascism. Occupy Hillary Clinton's Wall Street speeches. Clinton earned $11 million in 2014 and the first quarter of 2015 for 51 speeches to banks and other groups and industries. Wall Street's savage beckoning, clouds gather over G20 summit. Central banks and finance chiefs don't give a rip about growth, jobs, or even an overall state of the economy. It's a joke. First, they come for the iPhones. We should support Apple's refusal to bow to the FBI's dangerous demands. Only in America, an indiscreet selfie can put a kid in prison. Teenagers can have their life ruined by the government protecting them. 70 killed in 2 Baghdad car bombs. Suicide bombings killed 28 in Shiite funeral in East Iraq. 65 killed as Islamic State attacks Kurdish-held town in Turkish border. Tel Abyad and Saluk after Turkish fighters repel ISIS attacks in Syria. Kurdish fighters have reportedly managed to free 2 Kurdish towns near the Turkish border that were attacked by Islamic State just the night before. Syria forces gain control of strategic road in Aleppo. Russia says Syria could become federal state if that model works. Turkish military strikes on Syria derail ceasefire. Turkey's military preparations along the border with Syria and an armed intervention by Anarka provide an irreparable blow to the Syrian ceasefire plan. Russia registers 9 truce violations in Syria in the past 24 hours. Erdogan says ceasefire does not cover Syria entirely. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan said on Monday that the Syrian ceasefire declared last week covered only a tiny bit of the country, and he hoped it could be expanded. Saudi foreign minister says Russia-Syrian violated government truce. Reports of Syrian town attacked by militants coming from Turkey. Turkey to keep supporting armed ISIS fighters fighting Assad's regime in Turkey. Up to 30,000 troops needed for Syria's safe zone, says Kerry. The Russia-Armenian alliance threatening Turkey. The announcement that Russia is sending a new set of fighter jets to the combat helicopters to the airspace about 25 miles from the Turkish border. Although Armenia has welcomed thousands of Russian troops and advanced weaponry, these developments have escaped the notice of U.S. officials. 7 blasts in 10 minutes rock pro-Kurdistan city Diyarbakir embattled by Turkish forces. They're still lying about the first Gulf War. On this anniversary of the Gulf War, you'll hear politician after politician celebrate what happened in Iraq 25 years ago.
It was on my birthday.
Take a moment to think about how different the world might feel if we never kicked that hornet's nest.
Yeah.
Yemen, 30 civilians killed in Saudi-led airstrikes. UN chief recommends apparent airstrikes killing 31 civilians in Yemen. Suicide bombing kills 4 in Yemen. Yemeni forces capture over 100 Saudi troops, kill dozens more. Netanyahu says peace deal must address Israel's interests. Says that cessation of hostilities is important, that human standpoint peace agreements must include a halt to Iranian aggression against Israel. Rouhani's allies make huge gains in Iran elections. Iran's moderate president Hassan Rouhani won strong public backing, and his reformist allies made stunning gains in parliamentary elections. Partial results showed Sunday, reducing the potential of opponents to block domestic reform plans. Al-Shabaab attack, 30 civilians killed in South Somalia, 12 killed in eastern Congo by suspected Ugandan rebels, 12 militants killed in army operation in northwest Pakistan. U.S. payments to victims of Kunduz hospital bombing inadequate, sorry money. The military is paying $6,000 to each person killed, and the wounded receive $3,000 each, representatives of the victims of the October 3rd bombing told the Associated Press. Russia election, Putin warns of foreign foes. Addressing top officials in Moscow, Putin said, unfortunately, our foes abroad are getting ready for the parliamentary elections scheduled for September 18th. He said the techniques were well known and urged the security services to suppress any attempts at foreign influence. Is the U.S. preparing for a color revolution in Russia? The various U.S. services and the neocons in the State Department would certainly like to invite some revolt in Russia, but the chances of successful push in Moscow are tiny. Desperate refugees riot in Greek-Macedonian border. A riot broke out as hundreds of desperate refugees stranded in the Greek-Macedonian border smashed down a gate guarded by security forces on Monday. The razor wire barrier was ripped open and border guards fired tear gas. Refugee crisis, 70,000 may be stuck in Greece. Belgium pushes 600 migrants back to France. Belgium has turned back more than 600 migrants at the French border since the reinstating border checks over the fears that the destruction of part of the Calais jungle camp. France, police fire tear gas and rock-throwing refugees in Calais jungle camp, reports. France security forces have deployed tear gas against refugees. Local media reported the infamous migrant camp is being dismantled after a ruling from the court in Lille. Evacuation of these residents is expected to take 3 weeks. Trident rally in Britain's highest anti-nuclear march in generation. The campaigners headed for Trafalgar Square were addressed by the leaders of the SNP, Green Party. Cited an inspiration by many of those assembled was the leader of the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn. Sinn Féin, we will define mainstream politics in Ireland. A leading member of the Greece's Spirazza party claims radicalization of Irish society was taking shape. Kenny refuses to quit as Irish leader despite election meltdown. Both the Irish Sunday Times and Sunday Independent stated there were already rumblings by party heavyweights that he should go. One senior figure was quoted as saying Kenny was a dead man walking. Free Julian Assange petition delivered on February 24th. Members of a peace organization, Code Pink, went to Swedish embassy in Washington, D.C. to deliver thousands of petition signatures in support of WikiLeaks founder and world-renowned whistleblower Julian Assange. Massive IRS data breach, much bigger than first thought. A massive breach at the IRS was much bigger than first realized. The agency now says more than 700,000 social security numbers and other sensitive information has been stolen and spread on the internet. U.S. government releases its 2015 financial statements. 37% of the government's total reported assets are student loans, which is now considered the most precarious bubble in finance. U.S. has record 10th straight year without growth in GDP. In the 85 years in which the BIA has calculated the annual change in the real GDP, there is only one 10-year stretch in 2006 to 2015 when growth did not occur. Pending sales in U.S. existing homes fall by almost in 2 years. Contracts to purchase previously owned homes unexpectedly dropped in January by the most in 2 years, representing a setback in residential real estate lending up in the spring selling season. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard quit the DNC to support Bernie Sanders. Former vice chair of Iraq War veteran whose words come as a boost to the Vermont senator who faces criticism over his lack of foreign policy experience. When Hillary Clinton threw Arab and Muslim Americans under the bus, Clinton condemned her Muslim supporters, returned their donation, and refused to meet with Arab and Muslim Americans for the remainder of the campaign, all in the spirit of wooing Jewish voters. Marco Rubio pushed for immigration reform with conservative media. The Dinner News Corporation headquarters, which has not been previously reported, and the subsequent outreach of Mr. Limbaugh illustrate the degree in which Mr. Rubio served as the chief envoy to the conservative media group for supporting the legislation. Legislation of what? Reform of block immigration. The voicemail from Mark Rubio that led Christie to back Trump. Rubio placed a condescending call to ask for the governor's backing after Christie dropped out of the presidential race. The 44-year-old candidate all but patted Christie, 53, on the head in a voicemail message saying he had a little bright future in public service. Watch heated exchange after Cruz accuses Wallace of reading the Donald Trump attack file. Presidential candidate Ted Cruz joins Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday to discuss the 2016 race and the allegations of some dirty tactics by the Cruz campaign, and things got a little heated. Ted Cruz suggests Donald Trump has mob ties in his tax returns.
It'll keep me looking from Donald Trump. Wait, I'm going to say this hat will keep me looking.
Ted Cruz speculated on the Sunday that Donald Trump hasn't released his tax returns because he shows he has strong ties to the mob. Donald Trump now has more support than all his Republican rivals combined, say a new poll. The Republican establishment is desperate to find an alternative candidate to Donald Trump. Another former Mexican president hits out at Trump. Calderon, who as president in Mexico from 2006 to 2012, even said he thought Trump was trying to exploit the same social feelings and resentments as Adolf Hitler. Farrakhan, don't fall for Satan Hillary Clinton's crap. Sunday at the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan said, don't fall for Democratic presidential Clinton campaign crap and African American issues because she and her husband, former Bill Clinton, are responsible for mass incarceration of black people. And that's the news.